The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised. Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800 presents Passion with sex therapist Dr. Laurie Betito. To reach Dr. Laurie, call 514-790-0991. Star Talk, a free call on Bell Mobility, and 800-491-CJAD. Now, here's Dr. Laurie.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. I'm Dr. Laurie Betito. Tonight, it's our regular monthly feature that we call Dating Dilemmas. We explore some kind of dating issues once a month with Frank Kermit, who was a one-time seduction coach before he got into marriage and started talking more about relationships, and a dating coach. You can find him at franktalks.com. He's the author of many books on the subject of dating and understanding genders, etc., etc. So if you are single, or you have questions about dating or meeting people, or how to be successful, how to understand the genders, how to pick up, you can call in and ask those questions tonight at 514-790-0991. You can also text us at 514-800. Tonight we're going to focus on May-December romances, or also known as age gap relationships, if you really want to get the technical. Some people don't. Actually, why are they called May-December romances?
Well, usually you associate the younger person with May being in the summer of their life, and the older person with December as being in the winter of their life.
In the dark days of winter.
Exactly.
All right, so they're looked at as May-December relationships. I like to call them age gap relationships, where there's a gap in age. And I think we're talking about a significant age gap here. We're not talking a couple of years. Not 4 or 5 years, which would be, I guess, pretty typical.
Pretty typical. We're looking at some things like 20 years as a minimum, where one person could technically be the parent of the other person.
Technically, yes.
Technically.
Yes, you're right.
If there's at least 20 years apart, and the younger person happens to be in their 20s, and the person that they're dating is in their 40s, well, technically they could be dating somebody who's as old as their own parents.
Right. Quite true. Actually, there's a Friends, a couple of episodes where Monica is dating, I forget his name in the show, but it's Tom Selleck. And Tom Selleck happens to be her parents' good friend. Mm-hmm. Same age, range and what have you. And not only that, he's a grandfather. Like one of the episodes, he's pulling out the pictures of his grandchildren. And so she's the same age as his kids are. That's an interesting question for people. What if your adult kid wanted to or was dating your friend? How would it feel? And I'd love to hear from people who've actually been down that path, who have experienced that, whether it's in their family or themselves, where they've had a relationship with a huge gap. And maybe you have questions about the difficulties or the issues related to that. I'd also love to hear from... when we talk about May-December romances, we're usually talking about the younger person being female.
Yes.
With a 20-year gap. But how often does it happen that a woman is going to be 20 years older than the guy that she's dating?
I think that, let's say, 20, 30 years ago, it happened less often. When it did happen, it happened in secret. And now it's much more public. You have an entire cougar movement.
Yeah, that's true.
Where you have older women who are still sexually vibrant, who make it a point to take care of themselves, to look good, to be social, and who actively seek out and date younger men.
I mean, you can have the first part without necessarily have the second part, seeking out to date younger men. And sometimes I think, well, what do they have in common with these much younger men?
Une joie de vivre, an enjoyment of life. You got to remember that a young man might not necessarily have the same goals as an older man. An older man might be looking to settle down, start a family, if those are his interests. If he's a younger man, he wants to enjoy life. Maybe he's not really thinking about establishing a career, supporting himself. He's not really thinking about the future. An older woman, at that point, she's no longer looking to find someone to start a family with, because she might not even be physically capable of that.
Right.
So they have that in common. There's the old reaching sexual peak. A man reaches a sexual peak in his late teens and early 20s. An older woman supposedly reaches her sexual peak in her late 40s and maybe early 50s.
It's really an emotional peak, though, because physically they both reach their peak in their late teens. Mm-hmm. Physically. But emotionally, women do reach that peak much later in life when they feel that much more comfortable in their body, more comfortable with their sexuality, much more open about their sexuality. But those are really sexual relationships. I like, what about you want to get serious with somebody?
Well, here's what I think. I mean, my experience in dating older women, I think the oldest woman I ever dated was in her late 50s or early 60s, and I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Seriously?
Yeah.
30-year gap.
30-year gap.
What did she want from you? What did you want from her?
We basically wanted the same thing, and it was very enjoyable for the time that it lasted. And now, in that case, it was more of a sexual relationship. But when I dated women who were older, there was always the possibility that it could develop into more, depending on what it is I wanted long-term and what they wanted long-term. The biggest issue and the biggest challenge that you're going to find when you have older women dating younger men is that at some point, if the guy decides, I'd really like to start a family one day.
Right.
He might not want to do it when he's young, but as he's getting older, he might want to do it. And if he can't have it with his partner at that time, that might spell the end of that relationship.
Which he won't have, because she will not be able to.
Exactly.
We do have that biological, clock thing happening. Hi, Joseph. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Doc.
How are you?
Not bad.
Good.
It happened to me on 2 occasions, and usually I've had girlfriends that were always like 10 or 11 years old. I was older than them.
So they were younger than you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
why? I just questioned, Joseph, how come you picked such young uns?
Okay, listen. Sometimes men think with the wrong head, It was a sexual thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, for instance, one of them, believe it or not, she was 16. I got her mother's permission.
Okay.
Yeah, but...
How old were you?
That's it. Chill there for a second there, my little grasshopper.
How old were you?
I was about 36.
You were 36. You're going to have the 16-year-old Joseph? What the heck did you have in common with a 16-year-old? And and you're telling me her mother gave you permission?
Whoa.
Tell me.
14 used to be legal consent, okay? Now it's up to 16.
Right.
It was a thing that hey, come on, you telling me there's not women out there?
I'm just asking you. Joseph,
it happened. It was a thing, a sexual thing. Look, the girl used to hang out in bars and drink. Okay?
Okay. So you met her in a bar?
Yes.
Okay.
From a mutual friend. But at first, I didn't know she was 16.
Okay. So she dressed and looked much older.
My dear, cleavage like heaven blessed it. I'm letting you know that this girl did not look... When I found out she was 16, it was already too late. We had already slept together.
And how did you feel then when you found out she was only 16?
The first thing I said, wow, for an old man, not bad. And then so I have to be honest. And then after that,
Joseph.
Look, it's a like he said, he went out with an older woman. It was a sexual thing. And after the sex and everything and the novelty wore out, it was, back to something else, more
I'm just wondering, for this 16-year-old girl who probably didn't have all that much experience, did she think it was just a sexual thing, or was she looking for more? Was she hoping for more?
Oh, no, she wasn't hoping for more. She was just along for the ride because I had nice car, money, whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. The whole thing about if it was my 16-year-old and you showed up at my door and asked for permission to sleep with her, I think I'd shoot you.
No.
First.
First of all, whoa, it didn't happen that way. First, we slept with each other. Then I found out she was 16. And then she said that she talked to her mother and it was cool with her mother.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's what she tells you. But anyhow, okay, Joseph, I hear ya. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. 514-790-0991. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas on Passion right here on CJD 800.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Tonight we're talking about age gap relationships or May-December romances when there's really like a large gap. And I'd love to ask you guys, what's the largest gap you would accept, and where do you think it's like a little bit creepy? To me, like Joseph, 16 years and 36 years old, that's creepy to me. But you know, where does the creepiness stop and the acceptability begin? That's our dating dilemma question tonight. And maybe you've been through this, but what if your kid, your adult kid, was dating a friend of yours? So basically somebody as old as you are, as the parent. Would that be weird? I think it would be super weird, but, you know, could you get past it is the question. 514-790-0991. You can text us at 514-800. Joining me is Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. So, Frank, what's the biggest challenge? Let's talk about the challenges of these really large age gap relationships.
Some of the biggest challenges. First of all, there's the disapproval of all your friends and family.
Yeah, well, they may not be able to relate to that person who's much older, right?
Well, they may not be able to relate. They may wonder what's going on. Does it reflect a deficiency in them? Because, again, you know, your parents might be thinking, well, did I do something wrong in the way I raised my child that they would be dating somebody who's my age? There's a lot of animosity. Sometimes it could just be jealousy, where somebody says, wow, I wish I could do that. I don't have the guts, but you're doing it, and I'm mad about that.
Right.
You know, it could also be considered a threat. You know, if somebody says, wait a minute, you're dating somebody who's much older or much younger. Well, I'm worried that my spouse is going to want to do that now that, you know, you're doing it. Maybe I'm worried I'm going to lose my spouse to somebody else because of that age gap.
Sometimes I also wonder about the whole issue of children, you know, where if it's your parents, the parents' reaction is like, what? The person is so much older. Don't you want to have children? Don't you want to have family? Aren't you thinking about that? How's that happening? So let's hear from Richard tonight. Hi, Richard. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you, Richard?
I love you guys. You are fantastic. I just want to say that first.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Basically, when I was 18, I was dating a 38-year-old, and my mother was 38.
Really?
Yeah.
And how did that come about? And what did you see in her? What did she see in you?
I guess it was it was physical on both our parts. Most of the time, I think that's what attracts most of the big age. Well, isn't it what attracts most people in general? You know, It's the physical at first, and then afterwards, does the age make a difference? Most of the time, it won't last, I find.
Right.
There are the exception to the rule.
Right.
But it's nice while it lasts.
Was this the mother of a friend of yours?
No, this is somebody I met. I met at a party, and I said the right things at the right time. And I guess I was a young, fit. You know, I was 18, so I was in my prime. You know.
Sure.
I think she probably thought I was a little less experienced than I actually was, and for me it was, hey, a 38-year-old.
Ooh, you got a MILF, yeah.
You know, my mother wasn't quite pleased. My father kind of gave me a little nudge in the rib with a little grin. It lasted a few months, and it was fun while it lasted. But I didn't. You know, I don't think I think because of the age gap, especially me being 18 and juvenile and not mature, I don't think it would have lasted very long, but it was fun while it lasted.
Wouldn't it have been creepy if it was your friend's mom, though?
You know, I think there's that guy code. You know, there's that unspoken guy code where, you know, look at American Pie, how that
I know.
American Pie just flips over the guy's mother. I'm pretty sure we all have our little MILF
fantasy, yes.
We all fantasize about.
Right.
You know, I have to say, I look at some of the mothers that I fantasized about when I was 18 now, and I'm not fantasizing as much about anymore.
That's cute. Richard, thanks so much for calling in.
Well, like I said, you guys are doing everybody a great service for talking about all this stuff.
You're sweet.
I'm going to call back for on another occasion.
Okay, thanks a lot, Richard. Appreciate it. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to the show. Hey, Melanie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
I'm calling because I'm in a big gap relationship, if you want to call it.
Okay, how big and how old?
I'm 21 and he's 52.
52?
Yeah.
Okay, so now tell me what you see in him. I can certainly guess what he sees in
when
you.
I was 16.
You met him when? Oh, are you? Is this Celine Dion?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no. I met him when I was 16, and I guess I told him how I felt when I was about 18, and he didn't say, "Oh, I don't feel the same way," but he didn't. He was very uncomfortable with this because it had never happened to him before.
Who was it? Like, was it? I
met him at a restaurant. I went out with friends, whatever, and I approached him because, like the person said before, it was more physical than anything.
Okay.
But getting to know him and getting to know how he is and all that, like he was so serious. Like, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna go out with your friends, you're gonna meet someone your age, and he's like, you have to go on with your life. You can't. He's like, I'm getting old. He's like, I'm not gonna get any younger. I'm getting older. You know.
Sure.
And I just told him, I'm like, I'm not gonna leave you just because of our age difference. I'm like, there's no way. You know. And I'm still with him today. It didn't make a difference to me.
How many years now have you been together?
Well, I've known him since I was 16. I would say for 4 or 5 years now.
Wow. So he's now in his 50s. Is that it? He's now 51.
Exactly. He's now in his 50s. Yes.
Wow. That's
And,
quite the age gap.
I know it's, and honestly, like my friends, when they all like first met him, I never told them that he was my boyfriend at first. They kind of thought maybe a friend of the family,
my uncle.
Sister,
Yeah.
You know? But then when they finally found out, they weren't surprised. They're like, we knew it. We knew it just by the way you were acting, just by, you know.
Melanie, what was the reaction of your parents?
My dad didn't like it at all. There was fights between my dad, my uncle, and my boyfriend, and we had to go to court. It was a whole shenanigan. Oh yeah, it was big.
Court.
Yeah. And in the end, they said that I had the right to do what I pleased as long as I respected my parents' curfews and I was home on time. And
so were your parents trying to get him accused of statutory rape?
No, they didn't, because it was a big fight, and we went to court for that. My uncle was the one who caused the fight, and he didn't want any problems, so he approached my boyfriend and asked him to drop any charges. So
okay, so it was like an assault thing. Okay.
Exactly, but now they get like my mom. She understands. Like I told my mom, it's like whether you accept it or not, it's not going to make a difference. And if you want me to be happy, you might as well accept it. And then my mom obviously, like she's not happy with it. She wishes I was with someone my age because she wants me to grow up with somebody and get old, and you know the whole scenario in there.
Sure.
But she accepts it for what it is because she loves me and she wants me in her life, and I appreciate that. My dad, he didn't like it at first, but now he's like, you're old enough to decide what you want. You're an adult. I can't tell you what to do. And
does he have kids of his own?
Yes, he does. He has 3 kids and he has grandkids.
So 20-year-old step-grandma you are. Wow.
Yeah.
How can I ask you the reaction of his kids?
Yes. When I first met him, he was living with his son. His son didn't find out till I was about 18 or 19. And he was so used to us being together that it wasn't a shock to him, I guess. Mm-hmm. And his daughter was dating also somebody she was 33 years apart with, so she understood right away.
Really?
Yeah, she was dating. She had 3 kids with somebody who's 63 and she's 32.
Wow. So, okay.
She understood, and he had another daughter, and she's in her late 20s. And when she met me, she's like, I don't care. She's like, I find you a nice girl, whatever. And like they never ever criticized it, and I get along with them very, very great. Like I'm very close with all of them. I have no problem with them.
And is the ex-wife causing any grief in all of this?
When I first met her, she was always like, "Hi, how are you? You know, nice to me." No, you know. But like when Christmas would come around or Easter, and like the kids would come over or whatever, I'd invite her because she is the mother and grandmother of the kids. Mm-hmm. But like she would feel like I was like, you're stealing my family, stuff like that, you know. But
right.
Like, listen, I'm not stealing your family. I'm inviting you because you're the mother and grandmother of the kids. I'm like, I respect you no matter who you are, you know. But she was the only one that had a bit of problem with it, and my sister. My sister didn't really really agree with it. But
Well, you sound like you sound beyond your years of 21. I have to say, there's some certainly some more maturity there. But wow, that's quite the age gap.
But I'm taking it day by day. Put it that way. Like meaning,
Okay.
I love him, and I don't plan on leaving him. And honestly, I see myself with him 20 years from now if he's even still here.
If he's alive, yeah. Do you plan to have children with him?
Sorry?
Do you plan to have children with him?
No, that's the thing. Right now, I don't want any, and he at first didn't want any, and I felt like if I can't choose, that's not fair to me. But then he told me if ever I were to want any in the next 5 years, like he wouldn't mind, you know.
Really?
But I don't really think. No, I don't want any right now. So
Okay.
I'm not thinking about that.
Not in this relationship. Okay.
No.
I hear
wouldn't
you.
do that to my kids if I had any. You know, it's not fair to them either.
Right. Melanie, thank you very much for sharing that with us and opening up your life to us. I appreciate it very much. All right. Bye-bye. 514-790-0991. And we'll take more of your calls on age gap relationships after the news.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the program Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Frank brings good news to the older seducer, to women they possess higher value. Frank's lecture reviews the stigmas associated with older men dating younger women and their solutions. Key emotional needs for both women and men in the age difference, methods of approaching younger women, and several answers to questions posed by older members of the audience. He also very much covered marriage between an older man and a younger woman. When dealing with a little girl inside, a man must be able to distinguish those women who wish to compensate losses in a father figure from those who are seeking and capable of an authentic relationship. Frank adds advice on where you can meet younger women, as well as dealing with the competition. Life gets better. All in all, a confidence-refreshing lecture for men concerned about their erotic viability over the hill. Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Buy this program now at franktalks.com.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion tonight, to Dating Dilemmas, where we focus on some dating issue. And tonight it is May-December romances or large age gap relationships. And I saw, I think Mike wrote large gaping relationships. If you just, when you look at it spelled out. Frank Kermit joins me in studio as he does every month for Dating Dilemmas. So if you've got questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call. Yeah,
My
I was
pleasure.
listening in and I thought it was really interesting because I'm in a large gap relationship and
How
it's,
big?
20 years. But like I met him when I was in my late 20s and he was, in his late 40s. So
Okay.
it didn't seem like such a big gap. Like as the other
Right.
girl who called and said she was, 16 or whatever.
Or 21 and 51.
Yeah, and I
Right.
find that as the years go by, you realize that when you're dating guys your age, if you're in your mid-20s or in your 30s, that a lot of guys seem to be a little immature and not necessarily as together as somebody who's a bit older and has
Right.
some life experience and some knowledge.
I think it also depends where you're at. So if you've had a lot of life experience and if you've been in the work field and you've had, you're in your career and you're going to have more in common with somebody
Right.
who's already older and in their career than somebody who's just beginning. So it
Yeah,
depends on life
exactly.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if you're older, and if a girl stays in her 20s or 30s, and you meet someone who's 20 or 25 years older, that it makes sense. Like it's not such a big problem or whatever dilemma, I guess.
What about the other way around? As a 40-year-old, would you date someone who was 20?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there.
Okay, you call me, okay? Hopefully I'll still be on the air by then. All right,
Bye.
thanks for calling. Maybe another decade. Why not? It's been one already. We never know. So some of the issues obviously are the disapproval that we've talked about, certainly from family and friends, and sometimes I guess it's really hard for them to come around that.
Well, most of the time, your family and friends very much care about you, and one of their concerns is someone taking advantage of you? So if you're an older individual, is that younger person taking advantage of you, trying to get your wealth or resources and taking advantage of maybe your very lonely status? If you're a younger person, are you being taken advantage of by someone who's manipulative and knows how to push your buttons and who's just using you as some sort of a trophy to show off?
That's true, and I've heard the family reactions to things like that. You know, like oh, she's just after Dad's money, and she's gonna come in and take all of this, and like so there's like an uprising in the family because of this.
Or the accusation of the young man who's going out with the older woman. Oh, he's just a himbo who's looking for a free ride for now, and as soon as he...
I never heard that, a himbo.
You never heard of himbo?
No.
It's the
Where
male
have I been
version.
hiding? A bimbo, yes, I got that. I like that. That's good.
Yes, you know.
Let's hear from Matthew. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I wanted to ask from you who are heterosexual, it's interesting what you're talking about tonight, and I don't get blown away too often, because I'm very out there. I'm a punk, I'm gay, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But this, to me, is really far out.
It doesn't happen in the gay world?
Well, no, what I'm saying is I have in my own family some age differences.
Okay.
But that woman that phoned 33 years, and I took argument to the second lady that phoned, I'm tired of hearing how men are not mature and women are much more mature and so on and so on. Sometimes it's the fact and sometimes it's not.
That's true.
But why do straight people look, if there was relationships like that in the gay world, let's say I'm 52 and let's say I started going out with a guy that was 21, the straight world would be calling me pedophile and all kinds of things.
Really? I don't know. I know a few gay couples where there's quite an age difference, and I mean, I guess it depends. You know, if you're 50 and going out with somebody who's 19 or 20, it might be looked at differently than if you're 30 and going out with someone who's 50.
But what I'm saying to you, Dr. Laurie, why is that? Why does the straight community look, and even within the gay community, look, well, this is not normal, but in the straight world, like that girl there that's 21, this is perfectly okay. You see, there seems to be a double standard.
I'm not sure it's perfectly okay, though. That's the thing. I don't think that most people view it as perfectly okay.
I mean, I feel sorry for her. I don't think she's totally grown up yet. I went to university and everything. At 21, you're starting your university, you're starting your career choice, you're starting your life choice.
Yeah.
So the man that's 50 in his 50s, he must be very comfortable, probably economically and socially. How is it that, you know, I mean, is she going to put her life on hold?
Well, she doesn't sound like she's putting her life on.
No, that's it. But, you know, and even in the gay world, I've had younger guys say, Matt, you're really cute. I can't believe you're 52. Wow, I'd go out with you. And I said, well, you know, let me tell you something now. And I'm like, some of my friends that are straight are 25, 28, and 30. And they say, you're amazing, Matt. You're different than the others. But still, there's that gay...
You're not comfortable with it, is really what you're saying.
For me, 20 years
is too much.
Between is maximum.
Okay, so 20 years max. All right, thanks so much for calling in, Matthew, and offering us that perspective, which I think is also quite important. 514-790-0991. Dating dilemmas tonight. We're talking about age gap relationships. When is the gap too wide? And is there a double standard in, let's say, the gay community and the straight community, or for men who date younger women versus women who date older men? And how do we view that? I still think we have a lot of perceptions about that and stereotypes about that, and maybe even some misperceptions. So it's always interesting for me to hear from people who actually live it to see if that actually holds any water. 514-790-0991. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, You create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything out of her mouth is a test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
We're talking tonight about May-December romances, or what we call, otherwise known as age gap relationships. When is the gap too wide? Some people have opinions about that, of when it's too wide. We've certainly heard some interesting stories tonight of 28-year gaps and 30-year gaps and even more than 30 years. How does that sit with you? And is this something, does love know no age? Should it be an issue? Should it not be an issue? What are some of the, what's the fallout? What are the consequences to being with somebody who is that much younger than you or that much older than you? One thing I have heard, of course, people being accused, if women go for much older guys, what is it? Do you have unresolved issues? Daddy unresolved issues? You looking for a daddy? What are you looking for? I've heard that.
Anytime you go into a relationship structure that is going to be off the norm, and an age gap relationship is off the norm, you've got to be strong enough to face whatever consequences and the slander and the negative remarks and the jealousy and the attacks. It's going to happen. So if you're not strong enough to handle that, don't get into those type of relationships. And this includes interracial relationships.
Yeah.
This includes interreligious interfaith relationships. If you're going to date somebody where you're going to be on the receiving end of a lot of prejudice and you're not strong enough to handle it, don't date that person.
So what you're really saying is that there's still quite a bit of prejudice of these age gap relationships.
Oh, of course. There's going to be all kinds of prejudice, and people will have their own reasons for not liking that relationship. We had a caller on before named Matthew, and he was saying, why is there that double standard? Well, first of all, you have people who still have an issue with homosexuality.
Yeah.
So if they already have an issue with homosexuality and there's an age gap relationship there, of course they're going to use that to attack. Why? Because there's an inherent hate and fear at the source of that.
Right. There's some homophobia right there. That's true. What about... Well, how do you know, this is something to think about, how do you know that you're not getting involved with an older person to try and resolve something that is deeply hidden inside of you that's a real issue?
Well, in my experience, you have to look at the repeating behavior patterns that come up. And unless you've done some work and some self-actualization where you're really coming to terms with why you do, what your motivations are, you're not going to know until you're there. One of my beliefs is once you are considered an adult by law, you should be free to involve yourself, whether it's for romance, sexual lust, or a loving affection connection. You're free to meet and connect with whoever you want. And the minute you start trying to regulate somebody that way, I think that leads to worse things. That's a bad precedent. I would rather encourage people to say, you're an adult, you have to deal with the consequences of your decision. Go ahead, date who you want.
But it's also interesting to look at our own patterns and to say, gee, I wonder how come I'm always attracted to, whether it be older men, whether it be whatever it is, and to see if it's related to
attachment theory.
Some attachment something related to one's history. Let's hear from Roger. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Dr. Laura. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I'm calling. I very, very rarely call these type of shows, but I was just listening to you and your gentleman. I have to absolutely, totally disagree. I am a man of 75 years.
Okay.
I have a partner, male, who is 14 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
We have been together for almost 40 years.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you. We are married, legally married. I have never, ever had any problems whatsoever in this city.
Okay,
I want to tell you that I think Montreal is the most open city anywhere. All my friends know we're gay.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like it, then they're not my friends.
Good.
We have, we enjoy everything that every other heterosexual people enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
We're involved in the community.
Good for you.
And so I just want to say that I disagree
Well, I don't think it's not a question of agreeing or disagreeing on this. I think some people have that perception, whether, just like you have some homophobics and others that you don't. I'm so glad you haven't encountered too much of it.
I agree. I'm very lucky that we've never encountered it, but we never have, and my friends never have. So
that's great. That's great news to hear. For me, I think it's a great message you're also giving out to other people who are listening who might be struggling with orientation, who don't often hear, Roger, from people who have been in long-term, stable relationships, who just live ordinary, lives. Exactly. And I hear this all the time, I have to tell you, from people who are struggling with it, because when they think of, the gay lifestyle, they think of the village and they think of, promiscuity, and it's not like that.
No, it's not like that.
I know.
We have a house, we have jobs, we work, and we're people within the community. It's not all having sex down in the gay village and cruising and all that sort of stuff.
I'm so glad you called, Roger.
Maybe the young kids think that, and maybe it is for them. But I think when they grow up, there is definitely hope.
Right.
That you can live a normal life without being aggravated as gays.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you called, Roger.
Okay, Doctor.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye now. 514-790-0991. Dating Dilemmas in studio with me, Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. If you have something to say, you are welcome to call in on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the program Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Frank brings good news to the older seducer. To women, they possess higher value. Frank's lecture reviews the stigmas associated with older men dating younger women and their solutions. Key emotional needs for both women and men in the age difference. Methods of approaching younger women. And several answers to questions posed by older members of the audience. He also very much covered marriage between an older man and a younger woman. When dealing with a little girl inside, a man must be able to distinguish those women who wish to compensate losses in a father figure from those who are seeking and capable of an authentic relationship. Frank adds advice on where you can meet younger women, as well as dealing with the competition. Life gets better. All in all, a confidence-refreshing lecture for men concerned about their erotic viability over the hill. Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Buy this program now at franktalks.com.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
On Dating Dilemmas tonight, age gap relationships, as he does every month. Frank Kermit of franktalks.com joins me. He's got a whole series of books and other materials on dating you can get your hands on by going to franktalks.com. If you have comments about large age gaps, 20 years plus, love to hear from you. 514-790-0991. Mohammed joins us on Passion. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Dr. Laurie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just want you and your colleague to help me understand, because one of your callers said she's 21 and she's going out with somebody 52.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to understand why she should do this, because she knows that she's young. If she get married with somebody a couple of years older, she's going to build up a family. And right now she's going out with somebody that she can have no hope of building a family because the guy is 30 years older. Then she's going to have a life that probably 40 years, 30 plus 10. Usually the men, they die earlier, 10 years, so she's going to live alone. So I'm just wondering, my theory, of course, I'm not a doctor or anything, psychiatrist, but I think these girls who do this, they lack self-confidence. They are not sure of themselves. They are worried that they're going to live a life of loneliness. So that's why somebody, even that old, comes forward, they accept it. So this is what I want to analyze and understand.
Interesting.
And I think, you are at the position, you are the expert. I think you should advise the girls, advise the young girls, that this is not a life that they should wish and they should go after.
But you know what, Mohammed? They already know all this. All of those, all of these things that we talked about, that she knew all of these things. She knows the difficulties with family would come up. Look, they even went to court and had, assaults and what have you. She knows about the issue of children. She knows he's going to die younger. Me coming and saying to her, have you really thought about all this? Because it doesn't sound like it's a match made in heaven, Right. She's going to say, well, I'm happy and this is what I want now. And that's what she's been telling her parents.
What is the problem here? What is the problem? Why she should do this? This is what I'm trying to understand.
She doesn't see the problem, though.
Yeah.
Right? She's not interested in having kids right now. She's going with how she feels now. I wonder about him, though. Right. I little wonder about him dating somebody who's much younger than his own children.
Right, that's it. Anyhow, so thank you very much. It's a fantastic program.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. I appreciate your 2 cents in this, certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
514-790-0991.
Let's look at this last caller. He automatically assumed that there must be a problem with somebody else's relationship. And that is part of the stigma that people face when they get involved in age.
Well, they're trying to understand it, right? It's like, okay, what motivates somebody to do that?
What motivates a person who's really young to date somebody who's much older is exactly the same thing that motivates two people in close age proximity to date, because that relationship structure addresses that person's emotional needs.
So she has that need somehow to...
She has a combination of emotional needs that is satisfied by being in the relationship she's in with that older man. The same way that a younger man who's dating an older woman, those people have emotional needs that are addressed by them being together. That's what it comes down to.
Like what? What kinds of emotional needs are we talking about?
Okay, younger person, let's say it's the girl. She may have catered to the little girl in her, which is a very important emotional need. And this older gentleman maybe addresses that particular emotional need in her in ways that a younger man just hasn't done in her experience. Mm-hmm. You could deal with younger man, older woman. He has an emotional need of penis identity, where he is going to be penis identity.
Okay.
It's how a man interprets his role as a man, his self-identity as a man. And if he's with a woman that makes him feel respected for the way he feels and identifies himself as a man, he might get that from an older woman much better than he can with a woman in his age group within his experience.
And what about the guy that goes after the much, much younger woman?
He might have an emotional need, let's say, of quiet time, and an older woman is going to always want to be clingy and needy, but a younger woman who's getting so much sexual attention likes her own independence too, so she gives him a lot of space to breathe, and that's what he likes.
I think his need is more to feel like he still got it. No?
Some men will do that. Mm-hmm. You've got to remember, emotional needs, there are dysfunctional emotional needs that bring people together as well. But there's something very, very important here. A person who has a dysfunctional emotional need can only be in a relationship with someone else who has a dysfunctional emotional need.
Okay.
Someone with a fear of intimacy can only be with somebody with a fear of intimacy. The minute one of them heals, that relationship is in
changes,
trouble.
Right. And I guess that would happen somewhere along those lines too.
So it's not just the age, but the emotional needs behind the issues, and age at that point is just a symptom.
Right. I worry too with those huge age gaps. When I'm thinking of it was Melanie, I think, who, when she may be left, widowed at the age of, 30 or 40 years old. But mind you, her response would be, well, I could be hit by a bus too. She's right. I mean, it could very well happen too. But look, statistically...
That's one of the... What would you say to somebody that wants to date someone who has a terminal illness?
Yeah.
And now, would you tell them, well, you're in the same age group, but
right.
Your partner here has cancer or is in danger of remission, and, well, you shouldn't date that person because that person might die, you might be left alone.
Right. You don't do it for that. You don't think necessarily about that. Thank you, Frank. We'll catch up with you again next month on our next Dating Dilemmas. Thank you, as always, for joining us tonight. Thank you also to Mike Babbins in Master Control, to all of our callers tonight. Very interesting discussion, in fact. Loved it. If you need to reach me, passion@cjad.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Dr. Laurie Sex Talk. You can also join our Facebook group, Passion@CJAD, or just look me up on Facebook. News is coming up next, then stay tuned for your comedy show with Joey Elias. Have a great rest of the evening, and don't forget, life is short, so take the time to smell the flowers and indulge your passions.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the program Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Frank brings good news to the older seducer. To women, they possess higher value. Frank's lecture reviews the stigmas associated with older men dating younger women and their solutions. Key emotional needs for both women and men in the age difference. Methods of approaching younger women. And several answers to questions posed by older members of the audience. He also very much covered marriage between an older man and a younger woman. When dealing with a little girl inside, a man must be able to distinguish those women who wish to compensate losses in a father figure from those who are seeking and capable of an authentic relationship. Frank adds advice on where you can meet younger women, as well as dealing with the competition. Life gets better. All in all, a confidence-refreshing lecture for men concerned about their erotic viability over the hill. Dating Younger Women, a guide for older men to the emotional needs of loving younger women. Buy this program now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.